Studio Team News. Receiving a diagnosis as serious as cancer can be shocking.
Our guest today refused to surrender and won. We'll meet Josie shortly, but first, please welcome Jo Lamble.
Hey, Jo.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Josie's story is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think we all spooked by the idea of cancer, but
Yeah.
Josie's story will show you that it's never time to give up.
Well, let's now have a look at Josie's story.
Josie Thomson is a smart, warm and happy woman. She's comfortable in her own skin, lives life in the moment and appreciates everything around her. But she hasn't always been like this. It's taken life-changing and, in some cases, life-threatening events to make her the woman she is today. At the age of 24, she was in a marriage that was ending and had been diagnosed with a stage 3 malignant tumour in her throat. She'd been given 6 months to live, and it was at this moment that, for the first time in her life, Josie started to ask the tough questions.
When he said the words, I went straight into a questioning space in my mind that said, well, I hear you, but I don't believe you. It wasn't a rebuttal, it wasn't a refusal to accept it. It was just really a questioning, an inquiry about it, saying, well, how can you know that for sure?
After intensive treatment and Josie's unwillingness to accept the diagnosis, her cancer went into remission. The next 18 years, Josie enjoyed good health until once again the unthinkable happened. The villain she had so heroically defeated years earlier appeared to have returned. But as the results of tests were revealed by her doctor, it was clear it was back in a big way.
Then he says, Josie, we have two things. One, we have a tumour on your frontal lobe. And secondly, you have bone cancer, 3 lesions on your right hip, your right ribs, and around this lesion on your skull.
The news was devastating. And to make matters worse, Josie's second marriage was ending. Again, despair and hopelessness stared directly at Josie. But this time it wasn't clear if Josie would enjoy another victory as spectacular as the first. With a diagnosis as grim as this, how could she ever come out anything better than second best? But thankfully, the universe underestimated her inner strength. Josie believes it's not what happens to us that defines us, but rather how we respond. To tell us more, please welcome the remarkable Josie Thomson.
Welcome, Josie. Look, considering what you've been through, can you honestly believe that you're sitting here today and you're about to tell us a bit more about your story?
No. Short answer, I think life is such a gift and it really is up to us what we make of it.
Mm-hmm. Because, Jo, I mean, Josie's incredible resilience and strength, it's remarkable, isn't it? Not everyone is as lucky, though.
No, and even at such a young age. I mean, Josie, you were diagnosed with throat cancer when you were only 24. Do you think being so young helped you, be so determined to fight?
It knocked me for a 6. It was completely unpredictable. I was really fit and no one had ever had cancer in our family. So when it was diagnosed, it was surreal. And it was interesting because in those days, back in the early 90s, if you heard the word cancer, it was an automatic death sentence. Whereas for me, I just kind of stood back and went, I hear you, but I don't understand, I don't believe you. So everything that I'd ever been taught to believe about God, about life, about bad things happening to good people, all of a sudden was up for negotiation.
Were you a smoker?
Never drank, never smoked.
Amazing.
Mm.
And did the diagnosis have anything to do with your marriage ending at that time?
The marriage ended afterwards. So really what happened was that when we got the diagnosis and those words were uttered, my husband at the time kind of went into shock and it really did transform that relationship. I had a second surgery because they had taken only one part of the thyroid out, and because of the nature of the cancer they needed to do a second surgery quickly. So we did that the next day, was in intensive care for a week. flatlined twice and actually had the out-of-body experiences and can recall them very vividly. But it was just this beautiful, peaceful experience, realising that it's not death that we should fear, it's not living that we ought to be fearful of.
Where do you get that strength from, though?
It comes from deep within. I think when you get something like that happen, you start to connect with something within you that you never knew you had. A deeper truth that no one else can tell you until you're in that space.
And it does definitely, as you say, affect the whole family and affected your relationship. Where did you gain your support after the surgery, after your marriage had ended?
Well, my family was incredibly supportive. Family means the world to me. But interestingly, I was working for a large multinational company and they offered me a role interstate. So I never ever thought about leaving my support base. But that day I just decided, I had the interview in Brisbane and it was a sunny, warm day, and I left Melbourne and it was wet and cold. And I stood on the tarmac, lifted the sleeves on my arms, and I just went, I feel well. And that was the reason I moved.
Well, Josie, we're going to hear more about your incredible story after the break and how meditation proved to be one of your biggest weapons in the fight against cancer.
Welcome back. Josie Thomson has battled not one, but 3 aggressive cancers and 2 failed marriages. She refuses to let these events control her because she believes events don't define us. It's a great mantra, but when did you first discover it, Josie?
I think back in 1991, when I was 24, when I realised that life wasn't really heading in the direction that I'd anticipated and was led to believe was going to be. So for me, that was the beginning of forging my own path in the road, in my own life, realising what my truth was and not living my life from obligation and duty so much anymore.
So you went along for 18 years after that time, cancer-free, and then, I mean, I can't imagine the shock of being told you've got a brain tumour as well as bone cancer. And they weren't secondaries to the throat cancer, were they?
Completely unrelated.
So what did the doctor say at that time about your prognosis?
Well, I didn't want to know. I actually asked this time not to hear any prognosis.
You didn't want that negativity or...?
No. I think there is a great influence that doctors or practitioners have when they actually give that kind of information.
What effect do you think it has?
Well, the first time when I was told, and I've got it in writing, 6 months to live. Now, if I had believed that, Joe, I wouldn't be here today.
It's
I know
interesting
that.
you say that. Because one of my brothers died from cancer, and I mentioned on the show once before that I always thought his doctors were very negative. They always kept telling him he was going to die, that he wouldn't survive to the next goal that he had set himself to survive. So did you encounter that? Is that why you said, I don't want to know?
That may be true. Sometimes we all die eventually.
Yes.
If it's not cancer, it's life. However, my mission is to get people to a space of peace before that day comes. So die or live is almost irrelevant, provided you're living fully with whatever time you have left.
And meditation has helped you a lot, hasn't it?
Immediately after the last surgery, I couldn't walk or talk properly for 6 months, so I was forced into a state that I didn't choose. So I was pretty angry for the first month or so, trying to fight this compulsion to want to move and my body not responding, or hearing the words and not being able to get them out. So I found myself outside on the back grass a lot with the dogs, and after I surrendered that initial fight, all of a sudden I just found this peace within me that I'd never ever experienced before. And I think if someone had said to me, Josie, one day you're going to learn to meditate and you're going to make this part of your everyday, I would have said, you've got to be kidding. Who's got an hour to go up and sit on a mountain in a Buddhist position? And what I discovered is it really doesn't take that long at all.
Joe, do you have some final thoughts here? Maybe something about meditation?
Well, I think this is exactly right. I mean, no one is saying that if you've got a diagnosis of cancer, you shouldn't go to conventional medicine. But Josie's a perfect example that what you also choose, your lifestyle, and meditation has been proven to really help your survival rate, and not only that, but can help anybody across all aspects of life. And Josie's got a website where you can go and learn and get a CD that shows that, yes, it can just take 4 minutes out of your day to help you battle whatever your struggle is in life.
Yeah, so I developed a 4-minute meditation. Feels like an hour. I give it to everyone I work with, sick or not, and it just allows you to tap into this space of pure peace, and that you can imagine a better day.
I love the sound of that, pure peace in a busy life. Josie, thank you so much for sharing that with us today, your story. Really inspiring. And Jo Landell, as always, thank you.
If you're in need of support, the Cancer Council is always there to help. To find out more, head to thecancercouncil.org.au.